the musics that we know, that at some point it went really bad for everybody, and that's what keeps them alive and keeps them making music, right? So we should do the same thing about performing arts. We should figure out how to keep our artists alive.
There's another detail in your play that I was struck by. You find out that your mother has the same sober day as you. That same October day when you stopped drinking is the day she did too. Is that something that really happened?
That is the truth. So the story is that I was walking home from the bar and I was about to be fired from the final thing in my life that I had going on, and I was suicidal, and I was trying to think about like how I could get up the courage to step out in front of cars. And I don't know why, because at the time I didn't really get along with my mother. We really had not talked that much in some time, but I called her because it seemed like the thing that you do. And for whatever you believe in, my mother had quit drinking 1 year earlier and was on her way home from the AA meeting where she got her 1 year chip, and that's when I called to say that I was thinking of ending it. And so she got me through the night. She got me into a rehab center in Jacksonville, Florida.
If you make it this time, October 12th will be our day.
So from then, both of us have October 12th as our day. So every year on October 12th, you know, chips are a big thing in the sobriety world. She gives me her chip from the year before, because I'm always 1 year behind her. So, you know, this past year she gave me her 12-year chip because she had gotten it the year before. Sometimes truth is stranger than fiction.
Yeah. You mentioned a higher power, or you mentioned whatever you believe, and I wanted to ask you about that, because one of the things that you grapple with in this play is that oftentimes in Alcoholics Anonymous, the people you meet in recovery are leaning heavily on God and on faith, on religion, on a higher power. And later in the play, this is kind of a little spoiler alert, but you say that science is your higher power. Why did you want people to know that?
My family was Mormon growing up, and eventually my parents left the church, but I was left with a really poor feeling towards organized religion. And this is all true. I was in rehab, and my counselor, this was like day 24 of day 28, and I was like, I'm screwed. I'm gonna have to leave in 4 days, and I don't know anything more than I had before. And so he said, like, fine, this is it. You're just gonna have to get sober with the Jews. And I didn't know what that meant. And he connected me with a group of sober Jewish men. They were all New Yorkers who had moved to Jacksonville, Florida, and they ran this men's group. They got together several times a week, and the first time I went in, they sat me down, and they wanted me to understand about science, and they wanted me to understand about neural pathways and dopamine, and that 40 to 60% of what determines whether you become an addict or not is genetics. And that's actually something that the National Institute on Drug Abuse came out with. So it's so not just like who's weak or who's not. I had taken an alcohol awareness class that was court ordered by the state of Kentucky. I had been to literally hundreds of AA meetings, and I was in rehab on day 24 of 28 for the first time that anybody mentioned science to me. And so I wonder how many people don't make it because they're like me, and we don't lead with science, and we lead with religion, and we lead with God. And if you can't hear that, do you just think this is not for me, and then you head back out into the wilderness?
We'll be back in a moment with more from Sean Daniels, including what we can learn from actor Matthew Perry's death. This is One Big Thing from Axios.
Think the case for global decline has been oversold? Then you should check out the latest season of What Could Go Right. It's co-hosted by me, Emma Varvalugas, and Progress Network founder Zachary Carabell. What Could Go Right may not have all the answers, but it asks the key questions. Every week we discuss the world's most pressing issues without resorting to pessimism or sensationalism. We talk with guests like NPR anchor Steve Inskeep, democracy expert Yasha Monk, prolific writer and historian Rebecca Solnit, and green energy entrepreneur Jigar Shah. So go ahead, listen to What Could Go Right on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast.
Welcome back to Axios' One Big Thing. I'm Nyla Voodoo. I'm talking to Sean Daniels about his work using theater to take the stigma out of addiction and recovery. Sean, when actor Matthew Perry died last fall, it captured so much attention. And you wrote about how what we saw was that we're still having the wrong conversation around addiction. How should that change?
So I wrote this op-ed in the LA Times because even in the circles I was in, people were like, well, let's not talk too much about it, because if it turns out that he relapsed, we don't want our name associated with that or those types of things. And I really just feel like we are missing the entire point of anybody getting sober. If you are driving a car across the country and your car breaks down, you don't get your car fixed and then drive back to the starting point of your trip and start over again. No, you pick up from where you are and you figure out what you've learned, and you realize, like, I gotta pay more attention to how much coolant is in there, and you go forward. And in recovery, we add this extra shame onto it, that if for some reason you relapse at the end, it was all worth nothing and you didn't really learn anything. If that's the story, with every relapse, I feel like I'm only confirming that I'm a failure, and at some point I stop trying. So I think the thing I wanted people to think about Matthew Perry is, look at all the good that he did. Look at all the people who are suddenly talking about addiction. People knew he was working on it, they knew he was sober, they knew he was very proud of it. There's a foundation started in his name. And so a lot of good has come out of his struggle, and and his being public about his struggle, and him owning it, and him being a part of it, right? That goes against the stigma of it, that you can be very successful and struggle with addiction and then overcome it. Those are the stories we need more of.
You direct the Recovery Project at Florida Studio Theater. What is this project? What's its mission?
One of the major factors in how we change national narratives is the arts. It is the TV that you watch. It is the books that you read. It is the movies. It is Ellen comes out and everybody thinks it's going to be the end of her career, and it's not. And then Modern Family comes on TV, and Will and Grace comes on TV, and next thing you know, national narratives change. The Normal Heart played at the Public, which is a play very near and dear to my heart. Reagan wouldn't talk about it. This play happened at the Public. The playwright Larry Kramer stood out front and handed out pamphlets to every single person that attended. And next thing you know, Reagan had to talk about it. I mean, the arts have the power to change conversations. People are alive because of those plays and those TV shows and those celebrities coming out. It has 100% saved lives. And so I want to do the same thing. I want to use the arts to really try to break down the stigma, for people to understand that there are many multiple ways to recover, and that people thrive afterwards, that they are not forever, strange, sad, broken people, but that there are people out there having fantastic careers and families and joy. And I feel like the arts can be the one that shows us that that's possible.
To that point about changing the narrative, I wanted to just end by asking you about a theme that comes out of your time in rehab and your life afterwards, according to your play. More will be revealed. I took that to mean take it a day at a time. Is that what that means to you?
Yeah. When I was in rehab, we were talking about how you can't drink again. And there was this woman who was like, are you telling me that I can't have champagne at my daughter's wedding? And her friend next to her was like, you don't even have a boyfriend. And I thought it was the funniest thing ever, because it was, we all catastrophize and live in the future about what this will mean to us. And in reality, I feel like being in recovery was great training for the pandemic. We were like, what's going to happen? It's like, I don't know. I'm going to focus on what's in my control, and I'm going to figure out how we get through today. And so when you're struggling with addiction, you just kind of want to get on the other side, and you want to get to years underneath your belt, and you want to get to a place where you're not craving and sweating through the sheets at night. That will all happen, but all we can do is focus on today. All we can focus on is getting through the next 24 hours. And if we do that, time adds up.
Sean Daniels is director of the Recovery Project at Florida Studio Theater and playwright of The White Chip. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us. I really appreciate it.
Oh my God, thank you so much.
If you or someone you care about is struggling with alcohol use or other substance abuse, you can reach the confidential and free national helpline at 1-800-662-4357 at all hours of the day, or you can go to findtreatment.gov. And finally, before we go, drinking looks like it's declining in the U.S. for younger people. Here's what that looks like by the numbers. Gallup data shows that 18 to 34-year-olds today are much less likely to drink than they were 20 years ago. And Gallup's director of U.S. Social Research, Lydia Saad, told me that could be for a variety of reasons. not just that cultural habits may be shifting, but also that younger Americans are more demographically diverse. White Americans tend to drink more, and they make up a smaller portion of our population today. The percentage of 18 to 34-year-olds who are Black, Hispanic, Asian, or other groups has nearly doubled in the last 2 decades. And that's it for this week's edition of One Big Thing. Our team includes supervising producer Alexandra Botti and sound engineer Jake Howard. Alex Sugiyara composed our theme music. Asia Whitaker Moore is Axios' executive editor, and Sarah K. Lanigu is Axios' editor-in-chief. And thanks to all of you who texted in your thoughts for today's episode. You can reach me at 202-918-4893, or you can always email podcasts@axios.com. I'm Nyla Voodoo. Thanks for listening. Stay safe, and we'll see you back here next Thursday.
Think the case for global decline has been oversold? Then you should check out the latest season of What Could Go Right. It's co-hosted by me, Emma Varvaloucas, and Progress Network founder Zachary Carabell. What Could Go Right may not have all the answers, but it asks the key questions. Every week we discuss the world's most pressing issues without resorting to pessimism or sensationalism. We talk with guests like NPR anchor Steve Inskeep, democracy expert Yasha Munk, prolific writer and historian Rebecca Solnit, and green energy entrepreneur Jigar Shah. So go ahead, listen to What Could Go Right on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
TNB Tech Minute gives you the day's top tech headlines, from big names in Silicon Valley to the halls of power. If it's making news in tech, we've got it. Check out TNB Tech Minute in the Tech News Briefing feed from the Wall Street Journal.
Here's your money briefing for Thursday, February 1st. I'm J.R. Whalen for the Wall Street Journal. Many Americans who use natural gas to heat their homes caught a break amid a surplus and a milder winter. All right.
It's nice out. It's currently 54 degrees.
as quickly as I can right now. All right, you ready? All right, here I go.
Dr. John Wilkins evaluates.
She walks fairly rapidly, and she doesn't seem to be slowing down, so she has good endurance.
The lab does all these measurements, including a DNA analysis, to help evaluate my biological age. Fortunately, it came back younger than my actual age, but there were some surprises. I need to work on building strength, and some tests suggest it may be helpful to reduce stress.
We have the tools now to be able to answer that question, to stress, drive, and acceleration in your biological age.
What he plans to do next is study different interventions that may help slow aging. It could be strength training, changes to diet, or even medicines that may have anti-aging properties, such as the diabetes drug metformin, or something yet to be developed.
When I talk to residents and students here, I say, I have no doubt that during your career you're going to be prescribing interventions that slow down biological aging in your patient. I don't know exactly what that's going to be. It might be a drug. It might be a lifestyle intervention. For all I know, it might be gene editing. But there are going to be ways that will slow down this process and give people a longer health span.
The goal is not simply to help us live longer, but more importantly, to extend the number of years we live with good health. Allison Aubrey, NPR News.
This is NPR News.
As the one-year anniversary of the East Palestine, Ohio train derailment approaches, the people who stayed are still dealing with the aftermath. Misty Allison is one of them, and she says the cleanup process is still ongoing.
There is still some contamination that's existing, especially with these waterways.
One East Palestine residents search for answers tomorrow on Morning Edition from NPR News.
Join Marianne Selesnik tomorrow morning at 91.7 WVXU.
These winter mornings can make getting up and starting your day a challenge. Believe me, I know. This is Marianne Selesnik, and despite the cold, I'm here starting at 5 a.m. so you get all the local, national, and international news, plus traffic and weather to start your day. It's Morning Edition on 91.7 WVXU.
Eastbound 275 at Montgomery Road, there's a wreck on the left shoulder. There's a wreck at Kellogg east of Sutton. Queen City between Quebec and White Street, and Spring Grove at Mitchell, there's a wreck.
It's All Things Considered from NPR News. I'm Mary Louise Kelly.
Making a fortune in Las Vegas is the modern American dream. We've all heard the warning, the house always wins, that the odds are stacked against every player who puts their chips on the table. But there are ways to beat the house.
I grab all the chips, I just turn around and book it. I got on the bike and pinned it.
The Bellagio had just been robbed. From Waveland and Pegalo Pictures comes the story of a man who robbed the house
We ended up counting them and come up with this big number.
Returned to the house
If they know it's me, they're gonna tackle me the second I walk in here.
and lived in it.
She ends up giving me a $600 a night room. I lived there, man.
This is the High Roller Heist,
Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
wherever you get your podcasts.
With no fees or minimums, banking with Capital One is the easiest decision in the history of decisions. Even easier than deciding to listen to another episode of your favorite podcast. And with no overdraft fees, is it even a decision? That's banking reimagined. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank. Capital One, N.A., member FDIC.
Save big on your next project at Menards. Protect and maintain your wood surfaces with Minwax stains and finishes. They offer a great variety of easy-to-use products that provide a beautiful, rich color that enhances the natural wood grain. Start with a finish that will last for years to come. Grab a quart of wood finish interior water-based stain for only $13.98. Sale prices good through February 4th. Now at Menards. Save big money at Menards.
Hi, Crime Junkies. I'm your host, Ashley Flowers.
And I'm Brent.
And the story I have for you today is one that I bet you haven't heard. Everyone knows JonBenet Ramsey because of how her case played out. It was a media sensation here in the U.S. Murdered child, weird circumstances, contaminated crime scene, bad police work. But there was actually a case in India that mirrors that case in so many ways. One just as big and just as confusing, making it one of the most infamous unsolved cases in India's history. Now, quick disclaimer, because this case takes place in India, we received some guidance on our pronunciations for this episode, but I'm going to be very honest here. We have tried the best we can, but all the guidance in the world won't make either Brit or I native Hindi speakers. But that said, we didn't want that to stop us from sharing this story with you all, because as you'll come to see, there are still so many questions surrounding this case to this day. This is the story of Arushi Talwar and Hemraj Banjade. It's around 6 a.m. on May 16, 2008 in Noida, India. And that's when Newport Talwar wakes to the sound of the doorbell ringing at her flat. And she's not surprised by this. She's expecting their cleaning lady to arrive and start her day. What she is surprised by is the fact that she has to climb out of bed and get to the door herself, because their live-in house employee, Hemraj Banjade, hasn't answered it yet. He's usually on the ball as part of his job, along with cooking and other household chores. However, Hemraj doesn't seem to be home, so Nupur quickly calls him. And according to an article in Sippy by Abhi Ruksen, it sounds like someone answers, but then the phone just cuts off, which is a little strange to her, but she continues to the front door and opens it. When she does, though, she discovers a problem. The outer screen door has been bolted from the outside, so she can't actually get out.
She's locked in her own home?
Basically, and I'm not sure why that's even like a setup like that, especially if there's like a fire and you're inside.
Yeah, it seems like a hazard.
Yeah, but this is like the second of 3 doors, and at the other end of this like little entryway, there is a locked mesh or like grill type door where the cleaning lady is waiting.
This is a very confusing and kind of dumb,
I know,
setup.
It's a weird setup. I haven't seen it. Yeah. So Nupur tells the cleaning lady that Hemraj must have gone out for milk and then bolted the door from the outside. Because again, you can't bolt the door from like if you're in the house. Someone had to have left and done that. So the cleaning lady tells her like, okay, just throw the key over the balcony and then she'll like let herself in and then unlock that bolted door. So that's precisely what she does. According to Abhi Ruksen's book Arushi from 2015, It's about this time that Noor's husband Rajesh is up and notices a whiskey bottle on the dining room table. He asks his wife about it because he knows that he wasn't drinking that last night. And as far as he knew, she wasn't either. And she's like, yeah, I didn't get up in the middle of the night and hit the whiskey bottle while you were sleeping. So their thoughts immediately go to their 13-year-old daughter, Arushi. Now, I don't know if they're thinking maybe she drank it or they were unnerved enough to be like, okay, like, you know, where are the kids kind of thing. But either way, they go right to her room. There, they find her door ajar, and when they push it open, they are met with a horrible scene. There is blood on the wall. Arushi is laying in bed with a blanket over her, and when they lift the blanket, they find that her throat has been slit and her skull has been crushed. And but there is blood, so much blood on her pillow, so much that it drips down the mattress. And immediately, I mean, they don't even know what to do. How is anyone supposed to know what to do in this scenario? Because I don't care how much I know about crime scene preservation, in that moment, I would just be mom and I would want to hold my daughter and fix everything and undo all of this. At one point, Rajesh tries to pick up his daughter's head, probably thinking like all the same things that I would be, but it's pointless. A harsh moment of reality sets back in. Both the Talwars are dentists with enough medical knowledge to know that she's gone. By now, the cleaning lady has gotten back inside to find the parents just absolutely distraught. I mean, more than just crying. Rajesh is banging his head against the wall. She sees Arushi's body, and she hears the parents saying, "Look what Hemraj has done." Because in their eyes, like, they're putting all the pieces together, and in their mind, they know who did this. Their daughter is dead, and their house employee is missing. So this cleaning lady rushes over to the neighbors to get help, and that neighbor then contacts a security guard who works in their building complex.
Well, why didn't any of them just call the police?
Good question. When I was reading up on this, I literally had to like double back and check the year because I was like, why aren't you calling police? I had the same question, but it's 2008.
But yeah, I mean, she calls the security guard, but even then it's not her.
Right.
The neighbor does it.
I don't know.
It seems like just go to the source.
I don't know. I don't know if they're just so upset, like you're not even thinking straight. But that is what should have been done. It just isn't. They go to the neighbor, they go to the security guard, and it's the security guard who then alerts the police. And for the life of me, I don't know why it takes this long, but it is an hour before the local police even arrive. And when they do, the flat is full of the Talwar's friends and family because they did take the time to call basically everyone else in their lives.
I know you said like all crime junkie technical knowledge is out the window in a situation like this, and I completely agree. But I feel like I'd like to think I would have been together enough not to have a bunch of people traipsing all over the house in a moment like this.
I agree, but I guess police don't, because it doesn't even appear that they try to remedy the situation once they do arrive. In an article in the Hindustan Times from 2008, it talks about how they never seal off the flat. People are just coming and going. And to make things worse, the press has shown up. This is a middle-class neighborhood, so a child being murdered in their home just doesn't happen, so this becomes a huge story. And again, they're just showing up and allowed to just be there.
I mean, I totally get why you compared this to JonBenet earlier.
It's a lot of similarities. But the thing is, like, even in her case, like, at the time where friends had come over to their house, JonBenet was just missing, like, presumed kidnapped.
Which still has enough evidence that you want to preserve the scene.
Well, listen, I agree. So I kind of go back to, like, no one's just thinking straight, right? You're calling on your whole support system because you don't know how to function. I don't know. But I guess what I was trying to say is, like, in JonBenet's case, like, she's missing, maybe you have people coming over to help look, like, that's your first thought. But in this one, like, you know you have a homicide. So I have to just think, it's like you're not thinking straight. Again, you need your support system or whatever. So the police are here now. As everyone is coming and going, they begin asking the Talwars about the night before. But they tell police that everything was normal last night, nothing out of the ordinary. The family had a late dinner together. They even gave Arushi a digital camera for her birthday, which was coming up in a few days. and they say that they last saw her after dinner at around 10 p.m. when she went to bed. She seemed totally fine, and there was nothing the whole night that would have alerted them that anything was wrong. I mean, they were even in the room next to hers, but they say they never heard anything coming from her room to alarm them. But the small caveat to that is that just because they didn't hear anything doesn't mean there might not have been noise to hear. In a Hindustan Times article from 2008, Nupur Talwar is quoted as saying, "The thing is that we have adjacent rooms. We had both air conditioners on, which are pretty noisy. We had the fans on, and probably we were fast asleep. We work like crazy people the entire day, and there are times when you sleep like a log." And now the police do eventually test this theory, and they conclude that she's right. You could be in their room and not hear a thing coming from Arushi's room.
Well, and to be honest, I don't know I'd even expect them to hear anything. I mean, I don't know how everything played out, but if Arushi's throat was slit early on, I mean, she may not have even been able to make any significant noise, you know?
Which is very true, yeah. Now, as far as the rest of the flat, the police don't find any sign of forced entry. They don't see any weapon that could have been used on Arushi. Nothing was stolen in the house, except her parents do notice that Arushi's cell phone seems to be missing. It was always on her nightstand, but now it's not there and they can't find it. They do try calling it at some point, but they discover that it's been turned off or has died. Basically, like it's not ringing. Now, one benefit to having all of those people there at the scene is that there are a lot of eyes. And two friends of the Talwars tell police that they think they might have found some blood stains on some stairs leading to the rooftop terrace. They also believe that there is some blood on the door to the terrace, which you actually need a key to unlock.
Oh my god, another door, another key. You've got to be kidding me. I love this help, but shouldn't police be searching, not some friends who are continuing to contaminate the entire crime scene?
Yeah, it's not a good look for the police, but here we are. So they start asking the family and friends who are there to see if they have a key to get out to this terrace. No one seems to know where this key is. It turns into like a game of telephone. So-and-so has it. No, this other person has it. Ask them. So they're trying to get out there, but in the meantime, Rajesh is telling police, like, forget the key, forget the terrace, stop wasting time, and find Hemraj, because he's the murderer.
I mean, for all they know, he could have the key.
Well, potentially. So that's when the hunt for Hemraj begins.
You guys, these subscriptions are killing me. Can you or anyone tell me why I had 2 subscriptions for 2 different streaming services for who knows how long, and I would have just, I don't know, kept paying for them if not for Rocket Money. Oh, you don't know Rocket Money? Well, Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills. In fact, Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has helped save its members an average of $720 a year, with over $500 million in canceled subscriptions. And I'm one of those people, folks. With Rocket Money, I can see all my subscriptions in one place. And if I see something I don't want, or if I see something, I don't know, twice, I can cancel it with a tap. I never have to send a silly confirm unsubscribe email, get on the phone with customer service, none of it. And the subscription stuff is great, but I've also loved using Rocket Money for like general budgeting things. It makes it so easy to track where my money is going and helps me stay on track with my spending and saving. Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/crimejunkie.
Adore Me makes shopping for lingerie easier than ever before, thanks to their inclusive sizing, affordable pricing, and great fitting products. If you haven't shopped this brand yet, good news, because new customers can get up to 50% off their first order. Adore Me offers playful lingerie in over 67 different sizes, so you are bound to find a style that's just so you. And that can be everything from like everyday functional to the spicier stuff. I myself go for the spicier stuff. But don't look at him, he's married. That's an inside joke. If you don't get it, you don't follow me on Instagram. But their stuff fits so well, and it is so flattering on every single curve. And on the floor if you're doing it right. Get your sexy or your comfort or both on. Go to adoreme.com to shop now. Now, Hemraj is from Nepal, where his wife lives. And it was pretty common for people from Nepal to find work in India, specifically work in homes for families like the Talwars. Now, even though he didn't have a ton of connections here, police learned that Hemraj has a son-in-law who also works in India. According to the documentary Behind Closed Doors from 2019, the police go to him to see if he knows where Hemraj is. But the son-in-law hasn't seen him, so they drag him to this bus station hoping he can help them spot Hemraj, who may be trying, they think, to like skip town. But they can't find this